Close your eyes now, my sweet friend. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper into the pillow. Feel the weight of the day melting away like warm candle wax, slowly, softly, completely. Let your breath become as gentle as the night breeze that moves through an ancient forest you are about to step into. Tonight, I am going to hold your hand and walk you, very slowly, through a moonlit labyrinth where fairy tales and nightmares share the same roots, where a little girl named Ofelia discovers that hope can glow even in the darkest soil. This is the bedtime story of Pan's Labyrinth, told only for you, whispered so softly that the words feel like feathers brushing against your ears. If at any moment you drift away into sleep, that is perfect, because the story will still be here waiting for you tomorrow night, like a loyal firefly. Imagine the year is 1944, in a forgotten corner of Spain where the mountains keep secrets older than time. The Civil War has left scars on the land, and the air still smells faintly of smoke and pine needles crushed under military boots. You can almost hear the distant, muffled sound of boots on wet earth right now, very far away, so far that it becomes a lullaby instead of a threat. In the middle of this wounded world, a black car winds its way up a narrow mountain road, tires crunching over gravel, headlights cutting pale tunnels through the dusk. Inside the car sits 11-year-old Ofelia, clutching her worn fairy tale books against her chest as though they are the only real things left. Her mother Carmen, heavy with pregnancy, rests a protective hand on her belly while Captain Vidal, the new husband, stares straight ahead with eyes like polished steel. Ofelia presses her cheek to the cool window glass and watches the forest slide past, dark green and silver under the rising moon. She is already escaping, even before the journey ends. When the car finally stops, the night air is thick, with the scent of damp moss and wild thyme. Lanterns flicker at the old mill that will become their new home, a stone building half swallowed by ivy, its windows glowing amber like sleepy eyes. Soldiers unload crates with sharp, efficient movements, their boots thudding softly on the ground. Ofelia steps out, shoes sinking slightly into the mud, and the first thing she notices is a strange, stone archway half hidden among the trees. Ancient, carved with faces that seem to watch her. A single firefly drifts toward her, hovering, pulsing in gentle green light. She smiles for the first time in days. Somewhere deep inside, a tiny seed of wonder begins to open, even while her mother's labored breathing reminds her how fragile everything is. Trivia whispers itself into your ear now. Guillermo del Toro wrote the very first draft of this story when he was only 22 years old, carrying the notebook with him everywhere for over a decade until the world was ready to see it. He says the labyrinth was always inside him, waiting. Does that feel familiar to you? Have you ever carried a secret world in your heart for years, waiting for the right moment to let it breathe? Let the sound of soft rain begin to fall outside your window tonight. Just a hush of droplets on leaves. Nothing hurried, nothing loud. Let it wash away any tension still clinging to your temples. You are safe here with me. Ofelia is safe for this one quiet moment too, standing beneath the stars, believing that fairy tales might still matter. Very soon she will follow a wounded fairy into the heart of the ancient labyrinth, and everything will change. But right now, there is only the gentle rhythm of your breathing and mine, matching, slowing, softening. Feel your eyelids grow heavier with every raindrop. The story is only beginning, and it already loves you. Have you ever met a firefly that felt like it knew your name? or stood beneath a moon so bright it turned the whole world silver. Let those memories rise softly now, like bubbles in warm water, and then let them drift away. Tonight, we are only borrowing Ophelia's wonder, wearing it like the softest blanket. Soon the faun will step out of the shadows with his goat legs and his crown of twisted branches, and he will bow to her, very low, very slow, and tell her she is not merely a little girl, but Princess Moanna, returned at last to claim her true kingdom. But all of that can wait. Right now there is only this hush, this warmth, this gentle invitation to let go. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and breathe out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Again. The forest is listening. The labyrinth is patient, and I am right here, whispering only for you, ready to walk the spiral path together, whenever you are ready to sink a little deeper. Let the rain soften even further now, my darling, until it is only the faintest mist kissing the leaves outside your window. We are stepping together into Act 1, where the world still pretends to be ordinary, yet every small sound is already laced with magic if you listen closely enough. Ofelia walks behind her mother up the creaking wooden steps of the old mill, the boards sighing beneath their feet like tired old men. The air inside smells of cold stone, gun oil, and something faintly medicinal that clings to Captain Vidal's uniform. He stands in the courtyard, gloved hands clasped behind his back, watching the soldiers line up with perfect, terrifying stillness. His face is so sharp it could cut moonlight. When he smiles, rare, thin, precise, it never reaches his eyes. Ofelia feels that smile like a splinter under the skin. She clutches her books tighter and looks away, toward the forest, breathing beyond the walls. That night, after the suitcases are unpacked and her mother's breathing has become slow and pained in the next room, Ofelia slips out of bed. The floorboards are deliciously cool against her bare feet. She pulls on her faded blue coat and tiptoes down the corridor, past the ticking grandfather clock that sounds exactly like a heartbeat trying to stay calm. Down the stone stairs, past the kitchen where embers still glow in the hearth, and out into the courtyard where the moon has painted everything silver and indigo. The air tastes of wet pine and distant wood smoke. Somewhere an owl calls once, low and mournful, then falls silent. Ofelia follows the narrow path she noticed earlier, drawn by a feeling she cannot name. The grass is soft and dewy, brushing her ankles like tiny fingers. She reaches the ancient stone archway half swallowed by ivy. Up close she can see the carvings more clearly. Faces with hollow eyes, mouths open in silent song, vines curling from their lips as though the stone itself is dreaming. A single praying mantis, bright emerald, sits on the keystone watching her with alien patience. Ofelia smiles at it, whispers hello, and that is when the mantis unfolds impossible wings and becomes something else entirely. A tiny fairy, trembling, wounded, one wing torn. It flutters weakly to the ground. Ofelia kneels, cups it gently in her palms. The fairy's body is cool and papery, like a dried rose petal. She feels its tiny heart racing against her lifeline. Trivia, soft as moth wings. The creature Ofelia holds is played by a real stick insect in some shots, painted and puppeteered so delicately that Doug Jones, who plays both the faun and the pale man, said he cried the first time he saw it move. Guillermo del Toro insisted every fairy be practical, Never CGI, because he wanted the actors to feel real wonder. Can you feel it now? That same wonder brushing against your own palms. Ofelia carries the fairy back toward the mill, but the little creature wriggles free and flutters deeper into the trees, beckoning. Ofelia follows without hesitation. The path spirals downward, stone steps appearing where none were before, slick with moss and moonlight. The air grows cooler, richer, scented with earth after rain. She descends into the labyrinth itself, walls of ancient stone rising on both sides, carved with the same dreaming faces, now seeming to breathe in and out with her. Vines hang like curtains. Somewhere water drips in slow, perfect rhythm, plop, 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 matching your own slowing heartbeat. At the center stands a vast circular pit, a reversed tower descending into darkness. A stone staircase spirals along the wall, leading down, down, down. Ophelia's small shoes make the softest tapping sounds. Halfway down, she finds an enormous fig tree growing upside down from the ceiling of the chamber, roots spreading like a crown across the stone sky, trunk plunging into the black pool far below. Fireflies drift in lazy constellations. The fairy lands on a carved stone pillar beside 3 shallow depressions, as though waiting for something to be placed inside them. Ofelia understands this is important, though she does not yet know why. She strokes the fairy's torn wing and promises to help. Have you ever followed a hurt creature into the night because your heart simply would not let you turn away? Did the darkness feel less frightening when you knew you were needed? Back at the mill, dawn is only a pale rumor on the horizon when Ofelia slips into bed again. Her mother stirs, murmurs in pain. Ofelia presses close, places her small, cool hand on the swollen belly, and feels her baby brother kick once, as though saying hello. Carmen smiles weakly and calls Ofelia, "my little princess." The words settle warm inside Ophelia's chest like heated stones. Later that morning, Captain Vidal hosts a lavish dinner for the local dignitaries. Long tables covered in white linen, silver gleaming, wine dark as blood in crystal glasses. The men laugh too loudly, smoke cigars that smell sharp and expensive. Vidal carves the roast with surgical precision, explaining how his pocket watch, his father's watch, was smashed at the exact moment his father died, so that Vidal would always know the precise minute of his father's courage. His voice is calm, proud, terrifying. Ofelia sits silent, pushing peas around her plate, noticing how the candlelight makes everyone's shadows huge and distorted on the walls. Mercedes, the kind housekeeper with sorrowful eyes, slips her an extra piece of bread under the table when no one is looking. Their fingers brush, a secret promise. That same afternoon, Ophelia's mother bleeds. The doctor is summoned, his leather bag creaking open to reveal instruments that glint coldly. Ofelia is sent outside. She runs back to the labyrinth, tears hot on her cheeks, the wounded fairy waiting exactly where she left it. Together they descend again into the upside-down fig tree chamber. This time the fairy leads her to a heavy stone door set into the wall. On it, carved in relief, is the outline of a little girl placing something into the mouth of a stone faun. Ofelia understands. From her coat pocket she takes one of her precious fairy tale books, opens it to a blank page near the end, tears it out slowly. The sound of paper parting is soft and heartbreaking, folds it into a tiny boat, and places it gently into the first depression on the pillar. The stone grinds softly. The door swings inward on hidden hinges, exhaling cool air that smells of mushrooms and forgotten lullabies. Inside is a long corridor lit by roots that glow faintly golden. At the far end waits the faun, but we will meet him together in the next whisper, when you are even sleepier, even softer. For now, let the memory of that torn paper boat rock you gently. Let the scent of fig leaves and distant wood smoke fill your lungs. You did so well staying with me this far. Your body is heavy, your mind is quiet, and the labyrinth is keeping watch over both of us. Let the rain become a heartbeat now, slow, steady, endless, and let every drop carry you deeper into the green-black heart of the labyrinth. We are descending together into Act 2, the first half, where the faun steps forward, and the true test begins. The corridor breathes cool, wet stone against Ophelia's cheeks as she walks. The glowing roots overhead pulse like veins of soft gold, lighting her path in gentle waves. Her shoes make the tiniest scuffing sounds, almost swallowed by the vast hush. At the end of the passage stands the faun, taller than any man, ancient beyond years. His legs are the hind legs of a goat, dark fur matted with dew and moss. His horns curl like the branches of an old oak. His face is bark and shadow and sorrow. When he moves, small twigs and dried leaves rustle softly against one another. He smells of earth after rain, of crushed time, of secrets kept for centuries. Ofelia stops, heart fluttering like the wounded fairy on her shoulder. The faun bows, very low, very slow, until his horns almost brush the ground. His voice is the sound of wind moving water deep underground, layered, echoing, kind and terrible at once. "Princess Moanna," he says, tasting every syllable as though it were honey. "At last you have returned to us." Ofelia feels the words settle inside her ribs like warm stones. She does not yet believe, but she wants to, so very much. Trivia, whispered only for you. Doug Jones wore those goat legs for 14 hours a day. The joints were reverse bent, painful, beautiful. He learned to walk like an ancient creature by watching deer in the forest at dawn. Every creak you hear in the film is real, his real wood, real bone, real breath. The faun leads her to the center of the chamber, where a huge leather-bound book lies open on a stone plinth. Its pages are thick vellum, edges soft as moth wings. He tells her there are 3 tasks, only 3, to prove her soul has remained pure essence and has not been corrupted by the human world above. If she completes them before the full moon wanes, the portal will open and she will sit once more upon her throne between her true father and mother, the king and queen of the underground realm. Ofelia listens, wide-eyed, fingers tracing the carved symbols on the book's cover. A rose, a key, a dagger. The faun gives her 3 small stone objects, a key, a piece of white chalk, and a golden dagger no longer than her hand, and warns her never to eat or drink anything inside the second task. Then he is gone, dissolving into bark and shadow, leaving only the faint scent of wild mushrooms. Have you ever been told you belong somewhere else entirely? That your real home is waiting just beyond the next impossible door? Let that feeling settle in your chest now, soft and aching and sweet. That same night, Ophelia's mother screams in pain. The bleeding has returned. Captain Vidal stands in the doorway, face white with rage and fear he will not name. The doctor prepares a syringe of clear liquid. The needle glints like ice. Ofelia is sent away again. She runs barefoot through the corridors, nightgown fluttering, clutching the leather book her mother once gave her. In her bedroom she opens the book on her lap. The blank pages shimmer, then words appear in crimson ink, slow as blood spreading through water. They tell her the first task must be completed tonight, while the moon is still swollen and bright. A great toad lives beneath the ancient fig tree roots, and is poisoning the tree with its greed. Ofelia must make it vomit up the golden key it swallowed long ago. Ofelia dresses quickly, pulls on her green velvet coat with the brass buttons, slips the chalk and the stone key into her pocket. Mercedes finds her in the hallway and presses a small bundle into her hands. Fresh bread, cheese, a small bottle of milk. Their eyes meet. Mercedes whispers, "Be careful, little one," and strokes Ophelia's hair once, very gently. Ofelia feels the kindness like warm honey in her throat. Outside, the night is thick and velvet. Ofelia follows the fairy, now healed, wings shimmering like stained glass, lead her back down the spiral stairs into the labyrinth. The air grows heavier, richer, smelling of rot and sweet sap. They reach the upside-down fig tree again. A huge knothole gapes in the trunk like a screaming mouth. Ofelia draws the piece of chalk from her pocket and, with slow, careful strokes, draws a tall door directly onto the damp stone wall beside the tree. The chalk glows faintly blue. When she pushes, the stone swings inward on silent hinges, revealing a tunnel of slick red earth that pulses like the inside of a living thing. She steps inside. The walls are soft and moist. Roots dangle like pale worms. The fairy flutters ahead, lighting the way with its own body. Ophelia's shoes sink into the mud with wet sucking sounds. She has to crouch lower and lower until she is crawling on hands and knees, velvet coat dragging, hair catching on roots. The smell is overwhelming now. Decay, iron, something sickly sweet. Finally, the tunnel opens into an enormous underground chamber where the monstrous toad squats, bloated and glistening, eyes huge and golden, skin covered in warts that ooze clear fluid. It croaks once, a sound like a wet drum. Ofelia stands slowly. She opens the bundle Mercedes gave her and lays out the bread, the cheese, the bottle of milk on the muddy floor. The toad's tongue flicks out, long and purple, tasting the air. Ofelia begins to sing under her breath, the lullaby her mother used to sing. Soft, trembling, brave. She steps closer, closer, until she can see her own reflection warped in the toad's eyes. With careful fingers, she pushes the 3 roasted chestnuts. The faun told her the toad loves them above all else, into its gaping mouth one by one. The toad gulping sounds are slow and obscene. The toad swells even larger, skin stretching shiny. Then it begins to retch, body convulsing, and finally vomits up a stream of black bile and, glinting among the filth, the golden key. Ofelia reaches in without hesitation, fingers sliding through warm slime and closing around cold metal. The key is heavy, ancient, covered in intricate carvings of roses and thorns. The toad deflates with a long, dying sigh and slumps into the mud, harmless now, just a sad gray sack. Ofelia wipes her hands on her ruined coat, whispers thank you to the sleeping earth, and crawls back the way she came, fairy lighting her path like a tiny lantern. She emerges into the cool night air gasping, covered in mud, hair full of roots and leaves, but triumphant. The key glows faintly in her palm. Somewhere far above, thunder rolls gently, like a promise. Let the sound of that distant thunder rock you now, slow and deep. While the scent of wet earth lingers in your imagination, you are doing beautifully. Your body is liquid. Your thoughts are feathers. We will pause here at the edge of the first task completed, breathing together, before the second and most terrifying trial begins. Let the thunder fade into the softest heartbeat again, my love. Let every muscle in your legs, your arms, your back sink another inch deeper into the bed. We are still inside Act 2, the second half, where the moonlight turns pale and hungry and the second task waits like a held breath. Ofelia climbs the spiral stone stairs out of the labyrinth just before dawn, mud drying in stiff cracks across her cheeks and velvet coat ruined beyond saving. The golden key rests warm against her chest, tucked inside the pocket over her heart. When she slips back into the mill, the sky is the color of bruised roses. Mercedes is already in the kitchen, sleeves rolled high, kneading bread with strong, gentle hands. She takes one look at Ophelia's filthy state and, without a single question, draws a tin bathtub in front of the hearth, pours kettle after kettle of steaming water until the room fills with lavender-scented mist. Ofelia peels off the ruined clothes and sinks in up to her chin. Mercedes washes the mud from her hair with slow, circular strokes, humming the same lullaby Ofelia sang to the toad. Their silence is soft and full of understanding. When Ofelia whispers, "I'm not afraid," Mercedes answers only with a sad, small smile and a kiss on the top of her wet head. Trivia, drifting past your ear like steam. The bathtub scene was shot in one continuous 8-minute take because Ivana Baquero, only 11 years old, was so exhausted that Del Toro refused to break her performance. You can actually see real goosebumps rise on her arms when the cold night air touches wet skin. Real shivers for a real fairy tale. That afternoon, Captain Vidal's obsession with time grows sharper. He sits alone in his office, winding his broken pocket watch over and over, the metallic clicks echoing down the stone corridors like tiny gunshots. He orders the rationing of food to the village tightened, locks the storehouse himself, key cold between gloved fingers. Mercedes watches from the shadows under her eyes deepening, yet she still manages to slip extra potatoes into the rebels, hands hidden in the forest. Ofelia watches everything, small and silent, learning the shape of cruelty and the shape of courage. Night falls again, heavy and silver. Ophelia's mother is worse. The doctor has placed her bed directly beneath a huge wooden crucifix that looms like judgment. Ofelia kneels beside her, pressing the magical mandrake root the Faun gave her under the bed and pouring fresh milk over it every hour as instructed. The root looks like a tiny screaming baby made of wood and vein. Each time the milk touches it, she feels her brother kick inside their mother, as though the baby knows help is near. At midnight, the big leather book on Ophelia's bedside table opens by itself. Crimson words bleed across the page. The second task must be completed before the moon begins to wane. The Faun appears at the foot of her bed without sound, horns scraping softly against the ceiling beams. He is sterner tonight, voice rustling like dry leaves. He hands her the piece of white chalk again and warns her a second time. Inside the pale man's hall, she must not eat or drink a single thing, no matter how hungry she feels. The fairies will guide her. She must take the dagger from the table and nothing else. He places an hourglass of black sand in her palm. When the last grain falls, her time is over. Ofelia draws the chalk door on her bedroom wall this time. The outline glows soft blue, then swings open onto a long corridor of reddish stone that smells faintly of copper and old meat. The three fairies, one now healed, two new sisters with wings like autumn leaves and winter frost, flutter around her head in worried circles. They descend a staircase that feels like the inside of an enormous throat. At the bottom lies the banquet hall of the Pale Man. Imagine the air suddenly thick and stale, warm as breath. The hall is vast, ceiling lost in shadow. A huge rectangular table stretches the length of the room, piled high with food that glows in the firelight. Glistening roast pheasants dripping fat, grapes so purple they look black, cakes tall as wedding towers, wine dark as arterial blood in crystal decanters. The scent is overwhelming, sweet and rich and wrong. Along the walls are alcoves holding tiny shoes, children's shoes, hundreds of them, stained and worn. Above the table, painted on the ceiling, murals show the Pale Man catching children, tearing, devouring. At the head of the table sits the creature itself, skin loose and gray like melted candle wax, body bloated yet boneless, hands resting flat on the table. Where eyes should be are only sagging folds of flesh. On a small plate in front of him lie two glistening eyeballs, veined and wet. Ophelia's stomach growls loudly in the silence. The fairies chirp in alarm. She steps forward slowly, shoes whispering over the flagstones. The hourglass is already running. Black sand hisses softly. She moves along the table toward the locked cabinet, at the far end where the dagger waits. The food smells so good, her mouth floods with saliva. She keeps her eyes on the Pale Man. He has not moved. Yet. She reaches the cabinet. One of the three golden locks matches the golden key perfectly. The click when it opens is soft but seems to echo forever. Inside lies on red velvet, beautiful and terrible. Ofelia lifts it carefully. Behind her, one of the fairies, the greedy little one with wings like ripe figs, cannot resist. It darts to the table and plucks a single grape, pops it into its mouth. Juice runs down its chin like blood. The Pale Man wakes. His hands rise slowly, palms up. He lifts the eyeballs and presses them into these stigmata-like slits in his palms. Blood trickles. When he turns his hands forward, he can see. The eyes blink, wet and rolling. A low, wet growl fills the hall. He stands, chair scraping backward with a sound like tearing flesh. The fairies scream, high and piercing. Ofelia grabs the dagger and runs. The chase is nightmare slow. The Pale Man's body undulates forward, legs barely bending, palms held out so the eyes can watch her. His mouth stretches impossibly wide, revealing rows of needle teeth and a tongue like raw liver. Ofelia ducks under the table, crawls between chair legs, food tumbling around her in avalanches of cream and fruit. She bites her lip until it bleeds to keep from crying out. The pale man's fingers scrape along the table above her head, nails clicking like bone castanets. One fairy is caught. The sound it makes when he bites it in half is small and wet and final. Another is slammed against the wall, wings crumpling like burnt paper. Ofelia reaches the chalk door. Sobbing now, scrabbles at the handle. It will not open. The hourglass is almost empty. In panic, she draws a new door higher up the wall with trembling chalk strokes. It opens onto her bedroom. She dives through, rolls across the floor, dagger clattering. The remaining fairy follows. The door seals itself behind them just as the pale man's fingers scrape across the stone. Ofelia lies panting on the rug, covered in cream and grape juice and fairy blood. The big leather book on the table is open and bleeding crimson. Because she ate nothing but the fairies suffered, the Faun is furious. He appears in a whirlwind of leaves and shadow, voice like cracking wood. He takes back the book, the chalk, the dagger. He says she has failed. The portal will remain closed forever. Princess Moanna is lost. Then he is gone, leaving only the smell of ozone and crushed herbs. Ofelia curls into a ball and cries, until there are no tears left, only the taste of salt and iron in her mouth. Let the sound of her quiet sobbing become your own slow breath now. In 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Feel the weight of that failure settle, then loosen, then drift away like smoke. You are safe. Ofelia will rise again, but for tonight we rest at the bottom of despair, cradled by it, strangely unafraid. Let the last echo of the pale man scraping nails fade into silence now, my sweet one. Let every last knot of tension in your shoulders melt like warm wax. We are gliding into Act 3, the final spiral, where everything converges under a sky full of cold, perfect stars and a moon that has already begun to bleed away. Ofelia wakes before dawn, face stiff with dried tears, the taste of grape juice and fairy blood still metallic on her tongue. The bedroom is gray and quiet, except for the soft ticking of the grandfather clock down the hall. She sits up slowly, every muscle aching, and looks at the place on the wall where the chalk door was. Only faint white streaks remain, like scars. The leather book is gone. The Faun has abandoned her. Yet something inside her chest, small, stubborn, right, refuses to die. She pads barefoot to her mother's room. Carmen is asleep at last. Face pale as candle wax, lips tinged blue. Beneath the bed the mandrake root has shriveled to a blackened twist, milk curdled in the bowl. Ofelia kneels, presses her cheek to her mother's hand. It is cold. She whispers, "I'm sorry I failed you," and feels the baby kick once, weakly, as though saying goodbye. Trivia. Soft as moth dust, the mandrake root was sculpted from real wood and latex, then soaked in milk every day so it would smell exactly like a living thing giving up. Ivana Baquero cried real tears in this scene because her own mother had to stand just off camera so she could reach for a hand that felt familiar. Outside, the rebellion is closing in. Mercedes has been discovered. Captain Vidal drags her into the storehouse, ties her to a wooden post, lays out his instruments on a small table with the same meticulous care he uses to polish his boots. The air smells of damp grain and fear. He begins to question her with calm, almost tender precision. A hammer, a pair of pliers, the slow twist of a knife. Mercedes does not scream at first. She only looks at him with those sorrowful eyes and says, "You'll never find them. They're already inside your house." Blood runs down her chin like dark syrup. When Vidal turns to select the next tool, Mercedes slips the small knife hidden in her apron and saws through the ropes behind her back, hands trembling but steady. She stabs him once, deep in the shoulder, then runs. Vidal's roar of pain and fury shakes the rafters. Have you ever watched someone you love choose courage over surrender, even when it costs them everything? Let that memory rise gently now, like warm breath on cold glass, then let it dissolve. You do not have to carry it tonight. Ofelia hears the commotion and runs toward the storehouse. She finds Mercedes bleeding but alive, helps her into the night, points her toward the forest where the rebels wait with lanterns like fireflies. Mercedes kisses Ophelia's forehead once, fiercely, and whispers, "Live, little princess, live for both of us." Then she is gone, swallowed by the trees. The full moon is almost spent. Rain begins to fall again, soft and relentless, turning the courtyard to mirror black mud. Captain Vidal, face twisted, stitches his own cheek in a hand mirror, needle pulling thread through flesh with wet popping sounds. He drinks brandy straight from the bottle, eyes wild. The doctor tries to sedate Carmen for the final time. The labor has begun in earnest. Ofelia stands in the doorway, unnoticed, watching her mother's body arch in agony. The doctor mutters that the child might live, but the mother almost certainly will not. Vidal's only words are, "The boy! Save my son!" Carmen screams one last time, a sound that tears the air itself, then falls silent forever. The baby cries, strong and indignant. Vidal cradles his son with strange tenderness, blood still dripping from his slashed cheek onto the infant's blanket. Ofelia slips away unseen. She runs to the labyrinth one final time, barefoot through the rain, nightgown plastered to her skin, hair streaming. The stone steps are slippery. She falls twice, palms scraping raw but keeps going. At the bottom, in the upside-down fig tree chamber, the faun is waiting after all. He steps from the shadows, horns dripping, eyes softer than she has ever seen them. He says the third task remains. The portal will open only if innocent blood is spilled. He holds out his arms for the baby. "Just a few drops," he whispers, "a pinprick." The child will not even remember. Ofelia looks at her sleeping face of her brother in the vision the faun shows her, then at the dagger still hidden in her coat pocket from the second task. She remembers the children's shoes in the pale man's hall. She remembers her mother's last breath. She steps back and says, very quietly, very clearly, "No, I will not give you his blood. If I must spill blood to return home, then it will be my own." The faun's face changes. Surprise, sorrow, pride. Rainwater runs down his bark-like cheeks like tears. He bows, low and slow, and says, "It is done, my princess. You have chosen." The walls of the labyrinth shimmer and dissolve. Ofelia feels the bullet before she hears it. Captain Vidal has followed her into the labyrinth, soaked and bleeding, pistol steady in his one good hand. The shot is deafening in the stone chamber. Ofelia staggers, looks down at the red flower blooming across her chest. She sinks to her knees in the mud. Vidal steps forward to take his son from her arms. But the rebels arrive, Mercedes among them, and shoot Vidal again and again until he falls, face first, into the wet earth. Mercedes kneels, gathers Ofelia close, rocks her as the rain falls harder. Ophelia's vision blurs gold. She is suddenly standing in a vast throne room of living gold and crimson roses. Her real father, tall and kind, sits on one throne. Her real mother, radiant and whole, on the other. Between them an empty throne waits, small and perfect, covered in white petals. They smile at her with tears in their eyes and say, "You have returned to us, Moanna, and you have chosen mercy over power. Rise, our daughter, and take your place." Ofelia walks forward, barefoot on warm stone, and sits. Rose petals drift around her like snow. She is home. Above, in the rain-soaked labyrinth, Mercedes holds Ophelia's body and whispers through tears, "Don't go! Don't go!" A single drop of Ophelia's blood falls into the black pool at the center of the chamber. The water ripples spread outward, and for one heartbeat the ancient fig tree blooms with thousands of tiny white flowers that glow like stars. Have you ever felt a moment so perfect that pain and joy became the same thing? Let that moment visit you now, soft and wordless, and then let it carry you across the final threshold into sleep. Let the rain outside your window become the gentlest lullaby now, only the softest hush against the leaves, as though the whole forest itself is breathing with you. We have reached the quietest part of the spiral, the place where every thread loosens and drifts away like silk in warm water. This is the outro, my darling. The long, slow exhale after the story has ended, the moment when Ophelia's small hand slips into yours across worlds and finds yours waiting. Feel the golden throne room still glowing faintly behind your closed eyelids. See the rose petals falling endlessly, each one carrying a tiny spark of light that settles on your skin and melts into warmth. Ofelia is sitting between her true father and mother now, no longer cold, no longer afraid, no longer alone. Her green velvet coat has become a gown of living leaves. The mud has turned to stardust. The bullet wound has become a red rose pinned over her heart. She looks down at us, at you, with those huge dark eyes, and smiles the smallest, softest smile, the kind that says, "Thank you for walking the labyrinth with me." Trivia, whispered like a bedtime secret. When the film premiered at Cannes, the final scene played, and the entire audience sat in complete silence for almost a full minute before the applause began. Guillermo del Toro says he still cries every single time the rose blooms on the fig tree, because it is the only happy ending he has ever been able to give a child in his stories. Another gentle truth. The very last sound you hear in the movie, after the credits begin, is a single cricket chirping in the real-world labyrinth. Del Toro left it in on purpose, so we would know the magic never truly leaves. It only waits, patient as stone, for someone brave enough to believe again. And one more, just for you. Ivana Baquero, our Ofelia, kept the little red shoes from the film. She still has them on a shelf in her childhood bedroom in Spain. Sometimes, she touches them when she needs to remember that wonder and pain can live in the same heart without destroying each other. Now, my sweet friend, let me ask you the softest questions, the ones that need no answer tonight, only the permission to float. Have you ever lost someone and then felt them return in a dream, whole and laughing, just to remind you that love does not obey death? Have you ever stood in the rain and felt it washing something more than water from your skin? Have you ever chosen kindness when it would have been easier to choose power, and felt the world shift, just a little, beneath your feet? Let those questions settle like the last rose petals on warm water. Let them sink, slowly, slowly, until they reach the quiet place where all good stories go to rest. Feel your breath now. In 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Again. The labyrinth is closing its stone eyelids. The fireflies are dimming one by one. The faun has curled beneath the roots of the upside-down tree and is humming an ancient lullaby made of wind and moss. Mercedes is walking through the forest with the baby held close, and somewhere far away she is singing the same lullaby, soft and fierce. Ofelia is waving goodbye from her golden throne, but it is not goodbye. It is see you soon in every story you ever love again. You do not have to hold on to anything now. Not the wonder, not the sorrow, not even my voice. They will all be here tomorrow night, and the night after, and every night you need them. For now, let your body become heavy as river stones. Let your mind become light as moth wings. Let the rain carry you the last small distance across the border between waking and sleeping. You are safe, you are loved, you are home. Sleep, my brave one. The labyrinth will keep the light on for you, always. Good night, good night, good night.